Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for sticking around for the last panel of the day. This is the Take Note Music Hits Major Scale panel. I'm joined with Clint Arthur. He's the co-founder of Ocean Floor Music. I've got Sean Gardner down the end. You are the founding partner of MODA. We've got Jacob Lee in the centre here you're the founder of Lowly Labs, and Jake Denny here, who is the head of growth at Mycelium. So I want to just go down the line and get you all to introduce yourselves, what you guys do at your respective businesses, and how you see the future of this tech evolving in the music industry.
Hey guys, I'm Sean. The co-founder of MODA and the co-founder of Emanate.live. Been working in this music blockchain space since 2017. Kind of seen all the ups and downs and evolutions of it. Before that, in sort of digital technology for 10 years or so, and music's in my blood. Mum's a singer-songwriter. I've been a DJ and a producer myself, and as soon as I looked down the rabbit hole in 2017, I knew I needed to bring my passion and my expertise together into one, and haven't looked back. So thanks for having me.
Cool, thanks, Sean. Can we just get a round of applause for the organisers of NFT Fest? Who's had a great time so far? Yeah, let's wrap it up. The music session's the best one. That's why they put it last. I'm Clint Arthur, the co-founder of Ocean Floor Music. So grateful to be up here on stage. I was a musician for 7 years, playing live in cover bands, original bands. Finally recorded an album, but then realised I wasn't going to create a career and financial stability for myself in that space. And went off into the corporate world for 16 years and worked for multinational companies around the world. Just lost my core and passion and realised I wanted to spend the rest of my life in the music industry, giving back to artists. And when I seen that artists were only earning 13% of the music pie globally, I thought that was a nice challenge to try and take on, and that also artists were still getting paid last in the commoditisation piece. Ocean Floor Music, we are here to help artists get heard and earn more money.
I'm Jacob Lee, or Lowly, if you've seen me in Twitter Spaces. I've been a musician for majority of my life and have been independent the entire way, so I've never had any management or label or anyone kind of showing me the pathway, and I think that's been the biggest blessing because I've learnt the industry side alongside the creative side as well. So I somehow reached a point where I've got around 250 million streams on Spotify. I've been releasing music monthly for a very long time, and I think that's part of it, being super consistent. And I got into the Web3 sphere in late 2020. I believe I might have been the first music NFT artist in Australia. I couldn't find anyone, so please prove me wrong if I was. But I've been releasing music NFTs for a long time, and now Lowly Labs is a media outlet in Web3 where we highlight people through podcasts and editorial articles and everything like that. So, yeah.
My name's Jake Denny. I am not a musician. I was playing guitar as a kid and realised the other kid that was playing guitar sort of near me was so much better, but that kid's name was Daniel Johns. So, of course, he was a lot better, but I rage quit because I realised I was pretty terrible at that. But as a career, I got into the music business, spent about a decade there, live side, label side, toured with Silverchair as their tour manager for a couple of times back in the day, and then decided I wanted to get a real job in digital and understand how things worked, and crypto was an inevitability as a path. So I've been in the space since about 2016 and been with Mycelium since the early days. We do data oracles, boring things, build smart contracts, DeFi, things of that nature, but they're the sort of integral elements that secure things and enable this commerce to occur. So there is a loose connection.
Absolutely. So I want to get started with you, Jake. I wanted to sort of ask you a controversial question in regards to the traditional music industry. How do they view this tech? Are we serious players in the game? Are we even a footnote in their conversations? Tell us what they're thinking.
Yeah, I still talk to a lot of people in the space, in the music industry. I guess I'm their interpreter. What's this mean? What does it mean? Is this real? Is this actual real money? Is ETH a thing? It's not viewed kindly. I think we're they see that there's opportunity, and if deadmau5 or something like that makes a lot of money, that's cool, but like that's deadmau5, right? Like, of course he makes a lot of money. But how does it help the emerging artist, or how does it help the legacy artist? What does it do for catalog? What does it do for live? What does it do for all the other elements? And so I think there is a high degree of skepticism. I think there are people in the music business that are pretty digitally savvy, especially now. Things have changed up. I mean, I work with Vanessa Bicken for years at EMI, and she's incredible, and she came from digital, and she's a real player in that space, and she's heading up Sony now. So I think that the tides have turned in what leadership looks like. And so I think they're familiar with it, they get it, they understand it, but it's like, what is the actual benefit for the artist? I gave the example, like, Taylor Swift doesn't want one of 10,000. What the hell is that? She talks to 20 million people a day. So she wants something that can scale to hundreds of millions of people, not one of 10,000. It just doesn't really fit that model where you're looking for mass. You don't get 250 million streams, right, on limited edition things. But the tech does unlock a lot of things. The ownership, the access, there's a lot of privileges that come with it. And I think that's probably the part that they're looking to explore. Doesn't help that the market's in the state that it is, and the reputation is going down the gurgler at the clip it is. But I think what we'll see on the other side of that is a cleaner version of this. We'll start to see the tech for what it is and what the benefits are, as opposed to the high mint prices and things like that. So I think that's cautiously optimistic is probably the better way to put it. I think next year you probably have a few people from major labels up here on stage. Plus these guys are probably going to blow up a lot of other artists or blow up with themselves. And so I think that will probably be a shift when the sentiment sort of goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Ocean Floor Music and MODA DAO, what do you guys see in terms of sort of making those connections and connecting the lines for people who are in traditional music looking to make their mark in Web3?
Yeah, look, it's absolutely, it is a challenge, I guess. We've spent probably the last 12 months of onboarding, we call them traditional artists, I guess, in Web 2 into Web 3. There's a few barriers early on. People are like, do I have to give up everything I'm doing just to do this thing over here? It's no, NFTs, blockchain, come and explore and look at it as an additional income for you. What we need to do for those artists is to make sure we reduce the barriers, drop the language, stop talking about tech. Artists want to create, right? That's what they love doing. Let's allow them to do that. So providing great onboarding tools with, Web 2 logins with username and passwords, fit, on-ramps and stuff like that is really about the user experience and making it enjoyable for them. So the opportunity is to have some amazing role models like Jacob up demonstrating, and I think that will start to rub off over the next period of time.
Yeah, I think, agree with what you guys have said. And the NFT boom has opened up the discussion for that didn't really exist before. There was a little wave of interest in 2017 around the entertainment industry and blockchain, but the NFT boom really made it tangible, and the dollar signs brought in a lot of people temporarily. And when you mentioned the big artists like deadmau5 and everything that's like that, it's like, yeah, they're already making a lot of money, but ultimately a lot of the kids that are coming up are looking at these guys going, what are these guys doing? And they're looking for idols, and they're, generally speaking, a lot of artists want to be kind of the first follower rather than someone to just step out there and carve out their own path. So now that we've had this kind of collapse within the space, we just have to keep educating and make sure that people realize that there are people you can trust within the space. They're generally not the ones that have got, billions and billions of dollars. They're the ones that are out grinding every day and building. And ultimately what's happened over the last few weeks will end up being good. And in terms of just, educating and bringing the right people into the space. And we just have to make it a little easier, I think, for artists to get involved. You shouldn't have to kind of, have a computer science degree in order to work out how to release your music. I think that's the challenge, for us, is just keep those Web3 fundamentals, but make it a little bit more usable at the same time.
Absolutely. And in regards with creatives as well, I am a creative, obviously. UX is super important. And when you can't speak to the people who are heavily involved in just creating and don't have that tech mindset, it's very difficult. So I do think that that sort of onboarding process can be a lot easier. Jacob, I do want to throw to you, in regards to being an artist in this space, how have you found the ease of sort of navigating into Web3?
I feel like in relation to trying to get your fans to understand, it's been pretty tough, to be honest with you. Like, I remember when I jumped into this, I was super hyped like everyone else. I was like, holy shit, this is going to change everything. The way that we can financially sustain ourselves, how we can crowdfund. You know, even if you have a viral moment on TikTok or YouTube, instead of a label hitting you up in the email and you getting funding through them, you can use that virality and go create NFTs, and there you go, you don't have to pay anyone back. But as I got super excited and told my audience through all the different mediums about NFTs, I realized that they could not care less, at least at the point that I began talking to them, which was kind of like late 2020, 2021. I feel as though we're still at a phase where there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had, a lot of ease of use, like actual like platforms like you guys, developing things which make it easier for artists and fans to kind of like get involved together. But luckily, there is an audience developing within the Web3 sphere. So if you're an artist who's trying to look for I guess, a certain level of success in Web3 right now, it seems as though the promotional methods are spend all day in Twitter Spaces. And that's not a vibe, in my opinion. I feel like we want to be creating music, and we want to be creative, and we want to work on our music videos and our visuals. And if you've got to spend all of your time in Twitter Spaces, it's not ideal. So I think even though we're not overly early to the space, like Joan was saying yesterday, we are still early in the adoption of general consumers. And I think that's just a matter of time through various infrastructure being built and changing the terminology. The last thing I'll say in relation to this question is when I was trying to almost persuade or convince or teach my Web 2 audience about Web 3, I would say digital merchandise and digital collectibles, which all of us know now. And I found that from not selling anything on a certain collection, it sold out within the hour, and that's because I was on a marketplace which took debit card and credit card, and they could just pay normally. So meeting your fans where they are, I think, is really important, and then you can, I think, find success in both Web 2 and Web 3, at least to some extent, by trying to not use terminology like non-fungible token.
Absolutely. I do want to throw a question to the whole group in regards to pricing NFTs, selling them as an artist. How do we see artists being able to deliver their music in different mediums and how they can monetize on it?
I can start if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
My kind of viewpoint on pricing at the moment is that, audio NFTs, if we want to talk about just songs being released as an NFT, I think if you're talking about an open edition or something that's not particularly scarce, it makes sense to me that it's like slightly more expensive than what the physical version was previously, because the physical version was always going to have that propensity to deteriorate over time, or like, you can hardly even find somewhere to play a CD nowadays, right? Let alone how scratched up it's probably going to be. So if a CD single was, from memory, about $4.99 back in the day, then I feel like an open edition single of a song should be around that $10 mark, because you've got something that should be yours forever if it's on the right blockchain. It's not going to get scratched, not going to get lost. You can probably sell it to someone down the line. You might be able to do other things with it in future, like integrate it with a gaming experience if it's like connecting your wallet, or there might be a platform in future that rewards you for listing that song or on their platform. So all of these different things that you can do that you couldn't do with the physical copy, I think it makes sense to kind of sit in that spot. And like fans, even though we've become accustomed to consuming every song in the world for $10 a month, the appetite is still there to spend more on the artists that we love. It's just that there's only so many channels to do it at the moment. And live music was one of them, and since that kind of disappeared for a few years there, that kind of led to the NFT boom, and people were thinking about spending their money in other ways. So as Jacob said, it's like a new form of merch, and there's a bit of a sweet spot there. I do think there's room for auction type models for more scarce things, when serious collectors can spend a bit more money if they want to, and the artist can be rewarded, as long as there's that easy access point for the everyday fan as well.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, look, I think I look at business models, I compare what artists are doing in this space, and it's a bit of trial and error. We're going to make mistakes with the way that we price up our models. If you look at a commercial business, it really depends on the quality of your brand, your users, your forecast, the quality that you're putting out into the market and testing that price point. You put some testing out there and see what works, right? With artists, we're going to make mistakes in the pricing point or the bundles of NFTs with utility, but that's just the modelling that needs to come into place to find out what works. The auction absolutely will be, a filter or verification of that process. Good quality art will always stand up, all right? So, and it also depends on, in the music industry where an artist is in their journey. So we're going to have artists that are really established with big fan bases that create one-of-ones and, they really resonate and dictate their price. So I think our learning in the last period of time, and Ocean Floor just launched their marketplace a few days ago, the advice listening in Twitter Spaces from a lot of successful artists have been to warm up your community, drop some free NFTs to kick off with. Don't let money be the barrier for them to come in. Get them to come in because they love the art, get them used to the process, and then go through a price discovery with them.
I think it really depends what you're adding to the NFT, to be honest. Like, how much is a car? Like, they vary. So, like, if you're going to be selling your music video, or maybe you're selling your lyrics, or maybe you're selling the stems to your song, like, that's what I love about this space as well, is that you can really fractionalize, in a sense, might not be the correct word, but separate the elements of your song and make collections out of those. And so I've sold my lyrics, I've sold my music videos, I've sold my songs themselves, and all of them are different prices. So the music videos, I've kind of put for more of a pristine one-of-one kind of deal where I'm not putting quantities out there. It's just one music video, whoever's interested can pay for that. And it might be an auction, or it might just be a more expensive price. If you're looking to do something with, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Violetta Zeroni model, or like Sammy Arriaga or Josh Savage, like these people in the States and Europe who are doing the generative collection model, which I think is also interesting in obviously developing that community that we all kind of want as artists. Those are going to be way cheaper because there's way more of them. So I think it's always going to depend, whether it be music NFTs or otherwise. You're always going to be implementing various levels of utility, and you're going to be selling different parts of the music itself, and that's going to be determined both off of what you feel comfortable with and also what the market is generally doing too.
I'll think two probably answers on this one. So the first one would be, I think back to the product days in the label side, where we think about this a lot, like pricing and wholesale pricing and things like that. Like, you think about standards, you think about distribution, you've got to have a wholesale price. Like, that's how a label would think about it. And so I think that's a challenge, like standardizing that and what you might think about of what's fair value, how do you build discovery, and also who owns it. It's different if you're going through a native platform or you're an independent artist versus if you're going through a label. But that would be something to consider in terms of just the barrier of mass adoption. And on the other thing, I think about, there was this model, Amazon ended up buying this company and it became what is now Amazon Music. And it was the most incredible pricing discovery mechanism I've ever seen to date on anything like music. And basically what it did is it incentivized, if your music discovery is the biggest thing, like that's how you break artists, is discovery and just keep getting it out there, messaging, music and adoption. There's a whole pathway that you do and you just execute it time and time again. You usually stop out at certain points unless they sort of take off. But this pricing discovery was, if you wanted this song, you could download the song, and if you downloaded the song, it cost you 1 cent. Every other song was 99 cents back then, right? So first guy to download it, I pay 1 cent. You're the second guy to discover it, you pay 2 cents, 3, 4, up until it hits the peak of 99 cents. And at that point, you've broken open the market, and what you're doing is you're incentivizing people to go hunt music of value because they can acquire it at such a cheap price. And I think that lost leads on the core people, but it incentivizes the hunt. And for hardcore music fans, we're always hunting. We're always looking for new things, trying to listen to Triple J or find out on community radio what's breaking and what's new and interesting. And so I think that model has largely been forgotten. Like, Amazon didn't continue with that. They used the algorithm to basically improve their service, but they forgot the model, and no one's touched it since. And it's a real shame. And I think when we look at NFTs, there's a huge opportunity to do something like that, incentivize discovery, and then hit sort of standardization. And that's, I think, how you take it from that early stage to mass adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to ask what we all sort of see the future of NFTs essentially bringing to the general public. I know last not last week, the week before, Ticketmaster completely destroyed the pre-sale of Taylor Swift tickets. They're currently facing a Senate hearing now due to the monopoly of ticketing in not only the United States, but I think globally. Do we see ticketing essentially being the first sort of mainstream adoption of NFTs, and artists and fans being able to get that first sort of fan pre-sale for their favourite artists? Or is there another sort of process that we would see this mainstream adoption?
I can go early on this. I've still got PTSD from the ticketing industry. I had to deal with them for most of my career in the music industry. Always bad, right? Like, you're a consumer, inside charges, outside charges. What do you get? There's no secondary market here. We don't have StubHub. It's a pain in the ass as a consumer, as a music fan. On the other side, whether you're an agent, promoter, artist, manager, anybody dealing with the live circuit, you're dealing with these cartels. In the US, that Live Nation owns all the venues, right? That is Ticketmaster. It is a cartel, the way that they operate, because they dictate terms, and you don't get a lot of... You can't say, I'm going to use this venue and I'll pay you, and I'm going to use this ticketing service because it's better, more intuitive, lower fees. No, you've got to use this and that. Like, it's a deal like that. And I think, having worked with all of these ticketing agencies, they just don't know any better, and it's a massive extraction process. They extract from the artists, they extract from the promoters, they extract from the fans. There's just no value equation there. They just take all the money. And so I just don't think that that's a sustainable model. That industry has to get blown up because no one likes them, right? Like, it's during the talk DeFi. Blow up the ticketing agencies. Give everybody a better utility access where you can reward. Because if artists use NFT ticketing, for example, not to get in, there's other things you can do with technology around that, but just to distribute and then give somebody some form of utility or show that they were there, like a POAP, you can then do a drop. You can then communicate to those fans that were at that particular show to get that set list, to get that live recording, to get that limited edition merch rerun, to get access to the next ticket sale because you were provably there. Like, there's so much utility, and the ticketing agents just stop thinking here, whereas the artists and the managers and the agents need to be thinking out there, and this is the tech to unlock that for them, absolutely. And I think that's probably the biggest opportunity, and I can't wait to get behind it, because, be gone all these other leeches.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, like, it's, a ticket doesn't necessarily need to be an NFT or need to be on the blockchain, but it's about knowing who your true fans are and who your, really loyal fans are, and not on the same scale as Taylor Swift, but I had a similar experience with Fred Again, who's playing in Sydney in February, and I've been listening to him for the last year or so, absolutely love the music, but he's blown up so much in the last 3 months that I couldn't get access to tickets. And there's like industry pre-sales and things like that, and I couldn't find anyone that could help out with the promo code. But yeah, I think like if you had Taylor Swift's first album as a music NFT, you should be able to just log into a portal and get those tickets, because you can prove that you've been there all along. And that's the sort of thing that I think this is going to unlock. And people talk about utility in NFTs all the time, but for me, like, the core utility is just proving you have that connection with the artist, and there's just so much that can come from that. And I don't know, I feel like we should be able to communicate that to, your fans that you're talking about, Jacob, but it's finding the right language and giving them the, true tangible examples along the way.
Speaking of fans and maybe moving away from ticketing, what are the other, use cases, I guess, into the future in music? The realization that kicked in for me this week was around, this period that we're in at the moment with NFTs and explaining what they are and onboarding artists and fans, compared to the vision of what's my collection look like at the end of this year? What does it look like at the end of when I retire? What's my collection actually going to look like? Oh, that's a few years away now. I know I've got to keep working in Web3, but we'll get there. But, I mean, that resonates with me in relation to the first NFT that I bought was Tones and I NFT, front cover of the Rolling Stone magazine, signed copy, arrived in the mail a week later with a cassette of her digital first album. I put that away for my daughter. She heard me presenting one. She's like, Dad, when do I get that thing, right? So I'm thinking about her, not only my super plan to hand down stuff to my kids, but I don't know what songs my great-grandparents listen to, but my great-grandchildren will know what I listen to. More importantly, not what I listen to, maybe the value that I pass down to them, but even more important than that I was part, and we are all part of this movement to make creators feel valued again where we're changing the creation process. This is a point in time right now. So that's exciting. I think if you think about the future, that's the outcome, rather than these few hurdles we've got at the moment with language and technology.
Yeah, mic drop moment. I think the last thing I'll say on that, you guys nailed it, is that it's really beautiful, I feel, to collect sentimental moments. And if we're talking ticketing, like most of the time, you're either throwing out the ticket or you're putting it in a drawer to never look at again. And so collecting these things and also having them in some sort of wallet which is public, and I don't feel like there's anything really developed yet to share that with the public in a really cool, like innovative way yet. Like you can, but you're just sending them your OpenSea profile most of the time. That's interesting because people who have, followed you for a while, maybe they're just your friends or your family, they can go through that whenever they feel so inclined and see that you were a part of a particular artist's show 5 years ago, and you still have that as a memory, and it's just stored in a much more efficient way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we are at time, so we are going to have to close and finish this out. I just wanted to say thank you for sitting up here and chatting music with us, everybody, and a round of applause. That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.